Hello and welcome to my podcast, Learn Reiki and Connect, and it's with me, Tracy Matthews. So we are helping you to connect to the light within and awakening and remembering from deep inside what you already know. And when we embark on our journey of remembering who we are, we then begin to embrace and uncover our gifts, seeing through the illusion of the physical world and tuning into that part of you. Now, you might know this as your higher self, your intuition, your inner voice. Maybe it's the bigger me, or it's the soul. So whatever that is, or however we want to label it, it is that part of you that really understands and knows and had a plan before we came here. And the earth skull is the place where we live out our physical human life. Now, whilst we experience the joy and happiness along that journey, we can also experience the opposite polarity. And what that looks like is we get stuck, we get blocked, then we have health issues and deal with mental health problems. So we're going to be discussing real life issues that happen along our way in our journey and in life, but we're going to uncover the energetic origins to a lot of what we are experiencing in our physical lives. Because here's the thing, from the surface it might seem not to have any correlation to a spiritual root cause, because when we get here we've got all the labels, everything looks very much from the outside, but when we start to understand things from the inside, this is the key to navigating us, because that part of you already knows. So stay tuned, because in this podcast we're going to uncover the gift of clairsentience. Now we need to understand, well, what is clairsentience? How can you tell if you have that gift? And how clairsentience can show up as an untapped gift? And then, how do we tap into that gift? So, that's really the reason why I wanted to talk about one of the most powerful gifts people have. But you know what? They're not always aware that they intuit this way. In fact, what I've seen and what I've noticed and I've personally experienced, we struggle with it. And we are often in a state of being completely overwhelmed. And without the energetic context that this deserves, well, guess what? It shows up as a mental health issue. So that's really the purpose of this podcast, because I really want to help people to tune in to their gift of clairsentience. Recognize both sides of this intuitive phenomenon. And tap into the unexplored aspect of themselves in a new way. Because that's going to serve you powerfully in life. And you know what? You're also staying true to the essence of who you really are. So put this all into sort of a context and place. We've got to sort of realise that we all perceive the world through our physical senses. I mean, that's a given. We've got the sight, hearing, knowing, feeling, taste and smell. And you know what? A lot of this is all unconscious. We're doing it all the time without us even being aware of it. But there's also a polarity, something else that's running. And this is even more true. But this is from the subtle spiritual senses. Now, the French word clair, that kind of gives us a meaning and explains the context very well, because it refers to the psychic ability of a person. And that's to pick up information and knowledge. Because we all have a combination of all of these, like the physical stuff. We've also got the subtle psychic abilities. So these psychic abilities is, for example, we're going to run through them, claircognizance. Now that's the ability to know something, an intuit knowledge about something, someone, without anybody telling you. And then you've got, on the other hand, clairaudience, where this is a psychic ability to hear. And this can be intuited in several ways. Maybe you're already hearing that inner voice, that inner part of you. Maybe you're hearing your guides, spirit. Maybe it's a way that you intuit and receive messages. Now, I've heard for some that this could be in a song, or it could be just something that they've heard, and then they get a message that way. And of course, the well-known one seems to be clairvoyancy. This is when a person can see a picture or a film in their mind's eye. And this might even be in the physicality, that they actually see in the physical world. They might see spirit. So, and of course, you've got the ones that are not necessarily so well known and talked about, but it's clairaugustus and clairolfactance. And this refers rather to tasting and smelling. Now, this is quite interesting. Now, mediums can pick up from spirits, but I know a lot of people, I've heard that they are able to smell maybe a loved one that has passed, and there's maybe a particular fragrance, and when they actually smell that, they know that that loved one's nearby. Does that resonate with you? Maybe that's something that you've actually picked up. So it's really quite interesting. We sort of focus on the physical because we're here in the 3D physical world, but there is also that spiritual, subtle, energetic part. That's also where we are picking these things up intuitively. Now, here's the thing. It's quite interesting because most people lead with one or two of these psychic and intuitive senses. So in this conversation and our podcast, we're going to focus on those who perceive and tune in predominantly by feeling intuitively. And that's known as clairsentience. So what is clairsentient then? And what are the signs if you have this gift? Because this is really important. So clairsentience means that you can intuitively feel, pick up emotions, and feel the energy of a person, even a situation, and the environment around you. Now, closely related to this is being empathic. Now, that means that you can intuitively sense and feel other people's emotions and their feelings too. Do you identify with that? Now, every person will identify and sense intuitively through feelings. So we've got a combination of all these, the claircognizance, the clairvoyancy. We've got all of these at play. But here is something I really kind of want to bring out attention to those of you who not only have this ability, but you are empowered to feel. So that means you sort of predominantly feel before you know and before you hear, etc. So you're sort of picking up more through the intuitive feeling. So this is a person who will naturally perceive the world around them. And that's primarily in this way. And you will experience both negative and positive. And this is a polarity. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail later. But for now, it's important we just kind of tune in to how you're sensing energy. And closely to this, we need to then what are the signs of being clairsentient? So here are just a few telltale signs that I have seen over the years, working with many people in my work, and who have exhibited these kind of traits. So I'm going to run through them and just let you sit with them. Because one of the things is that normally a person will feel from a part of the physical body Now, you might know a little bit more about this, but I'm just sort of giving my personal experience of what I've sensed from others and also from myself. So I've noticed that these are people are quite heart-centered. And you might physically feel through the heart. Now, closely following that is the stomach. Now, that's me. And for those others of you, you're going to get a gut feeling first. Then there are those that's through their head, through their hands. They feel vibration. So they not only through their head feel, but they're quite cognizant as well. But this is all done through these parts of the body. I mean, you might sort of have your own sort of sense on this and have other parts. But does that resonate with you? Now, let's go through some more. You're sensitive to other people's energy and aura. You can feel that person in front of you. Now, closely following that, you feel vibrations around you. And you can feel vibration in the environment. So you're just going to pick up feelings that might be literally fluctuations, coolness, breezes. You're going to pick vibrations up around you. You might go into a room, you might go to a certain walk that you like, but then you might equally go to a space and you pick up vibrations. Now, you also can feel when spirits or entities are near you. Sometimes people are not quite sort of tuned in as to what it is, but at some level, you know that there is something around you. Now, if it's a guide and if it's angels, obviously there's going to be a nice warm feelings, but if it's an entity or an earthbound, you know something's a little bit off, something's really sort of getting your attention. Now, here's another thing that you can feel uneasy at times, but you don't know why. Have you felt that? All of a sudden, you just feel, woof, something's off, and you have no idea where it's from. But you are getting a sense, you can feel it. Now, closely to that, you might feel emotion from out of nowhere. Has that happened to you? You could just be feeling absolutely fine, and then you just pick up on a sadness. Or you might feel fear. You know, it might be an emotion where literally that has not been you, and out of nowhere it just engulfs you and hits you. Has that ever happened to you? Something else. You might find that you release through tears. It might be that someone is crying and you just will cry. It could be something really little, something small, but you feel the emotion and then there comes the tears. Or you might regularly release built up emotions and feelings through tears. Now, it's not that you're sobbing and sobbing necessarily, unless, of course, it's happening with you or a loved one. But this might be that you just feel that emotion. You release, and it's like it's almost gone. Maybe you can sort of identify with that. And something else that you will intuit feelings without any translation of words. It's like you don't need words. You're picking this up. You have a frequency that is through feelings. Now that might be translated through goosebumps or waves of vibration around your body. You know, there's an old saying, somebody's just walked over my grave. You know, depending on your age, I mean, that was a thing back in the day that people would say. You know, you just get a vibration. You just feel, you might feel a cool breeze. You might just sense something. But these are always going to be in a way that evolves feeling. So can you relate to any of this, if not all of these? And this is where I'd like to just address, as you know, what I've mentioned and what I'm referring to. You know, when I mentioned about, you know, being empowered to feel this way, because I kind of really want to refer to the effect that this is going to have on people and how we will experience this. Because many will experience an influx of emotion. And you're going to feel everything intensely. And especially when you're dealing with your own stuff and there's traumatic events going on or situations in life, sometimes you can feel that it just gets magnified. And it can escalate into deeper seated feelings of displacement. Now, what that looks like to you and to I and to others that we sort of are led by this intuitive clairsentience is that sometimes you feel that you don't belong in the physical life. You know, and you don't want to be here because it's so strong. It's coming at you in all directions. And half the time, sometimes we don't even know why. And this is a thing, in our physical lives, the subtle energetic gift of clairsentient is either overlooked or completely ignored until a person has a spiritual awakening. Or they, you know, within the spiritual awakening, you then begin to remember that this is a part of who you are. Does that make sense to you? Because I know that this happened with me. I just woke up and realised, whoa, this is why. And that explained my 20s and even my mid-30s. Because I was just at the point where everything was flooding in. And we didn't even have labels back in the 80s and the sort of mid-90s about this as to what we've got now. But, you know, it was tough. You know, you just think something's wrong with you, that you're extra sensitive. And here's the thing, it can almost seem out of context and in part misinterpreted because it's like something's negative and, you know, we need to sedate ourselves. We need to be numbed down this overwhelm when it really starts hitting and gets magnified. And the reason why and why we're talking about this, because this is mainly because there is no filter or cognizance of that gift of clairsentient. And that's why everything is reaching a crescendo. Because there's no consideration quite often of the energetic origin of why this is the case. That one person can overfeel, as it sort of is seemed, everything, and to another person, they're intuiting it so differently. So that's why this space and this podcast, we're helping to sort of identify clairsentient and see through the illusion associated with being a person that is weak or awkward in certain settings and overly sensitive and uncomfortable in crowds. But rather, I really want to encourage you to tune in to your strength and your power as a spiritual being. So next, we're going to really sort of kind of want to talk about what we're going to look at and how in reality this intuitive sensitivity is displayed when a person's not fully aware of that aspect of themselves. In other words, how does the gift of clairsentient for you and I and for all of us show up in the physical life when it's untapped? Because this is really key. And this is why I really wanted to talk about it. So this is what I've referred to as being out of context. And i.e., it's not showing up as a gift in the physical life. Because there's a part of you that is designed to intuit and to be empowered through feeling. But you're finding yourself not in any way empowered In fact, you're only reacting to problems and emotions the best way you can. Does that make sense to you? And this is because you don't remember this is your gift. Or if you do, you're struggling with it. It might be now a time which I had to address, and I help others do, is to look at the boundaries that perhaps that are not in place yet. So, prior to knowing and embracing this aspect of myself, I thought there was something wrong with me. And maybe you do too. Maybe you can identify this with your child, a family member. I struggled with just being on the edge. And I'd always had disquieting thoughts of not wanting to be here. But in truth, I felt everything. And I didn't have a vocabulary when growing up and in my 20s and even my mid-30s. I had no way of even, understanding this. I had no words for it. And I had no filter. And this is really interesting. We're going to talk about that later. So what that looked like for me, I just had feelings of dread, fear and anxiety and overwhelm to varying degrees of my life, but there were moments where it was more worse than others. And I had no idea what was wrong. All I knew was I kept it to myself because I just didn't feel right. So I want to kind of go in and just sort of get some additional indicators that might help you. That's going to help you to sort of know if Clairsentient really is an untapped gift. Because it helps if we can have a little bit of awareness of what does it look like in our 3D? What does it look like in our world? What does it look like out of context of what we're talking about? That this is sort of stemming from how we're wired, if you like, sort of energetically and as a spiritual being. So your first response is to feel overwhelmed by either a situation or a person you're interacting with. That's your first response. There's that level of overwhelm. Because you just get these feelings which are hitting you. Or maybe it's a situation, an argument, or just, you're a person that don't like confrontation anyway, but a situation escalates and it kind of overwhelms you. And out of nowhere, you feel worried, fearful. You get a sense of dread. And you don't know why you're even feeling like this. Because you felt fine a minute ago, but now all of a sudden, and it grips you, it's quite strong. Now, the other thing as well, as if it's untapped, is that you're going to pick up energy or a vibe that makes you feel uncomfortable. And not want to be around anyone because of it. Because once you pick that vibe up, no one tells you, you feel it. And then you closely get that uncomfortable, wary feeling. Does that make sense? Have you felt that? Now, another thing, you will feel the emotions of others around you. As that happened to you, they might say to you, yep, I'm fine, but you feel it. You feel it. You feel the emotion. You might feel the hurt, the sadness, the anger, the annoyance. You're just going to, at some level, and it can feel quite overwhelming, but you're going to feel other people's emotions. So you're going to have gut feelings about people or situations. And you're probably led by that. You just get that sense in the pit of your stomach and you'll go, not going there, or that's not right for me. And you might be working from that and not even perhaps, because at the moment it seems to be that we put labels on things and there is a level of sort of, now I know what's wrong with me because when we can deal with it. But it might be that you have gut feelings, And this is part of your gift of clairsentience. Now, another thing, you might experience ringing in your ears in public. Now, I've encountered a few people that have had that experience, and they've come on and done a Reiki course. We've been talking about certain things. They've actually had physical things going on. And this is especially in public, busy places. Or have an increasingly anxious feeling when you're out. You might feel dizzy. You might feel just zapped and tired and drained of energy very quickly. And quite often when talking, especially when we're learning how to connecting with the light and connecting with source energy, this is quite a sobering moment where people realise, wow, I'm clairsentient. I'm feeling this is how I've always intuited and felt things around you. And to closely follow that, you might get yourself or find yourself that you'd rather avoid situations, people, and places that are overwhelming to you. So in other words, you're not going to go to that particular place, that particular person. You know, for me, I had a big thing if I went into the town centre or somewhere where it was a lot of people. I'd much rather not do it, because I would get very dizzy, very tired, and I would get very drained. So does that sort of resonate with you? You know, this is when the cogs start, churning a little bit, and we start realising, okay, that might just be something that I need to sort of but something that we need to sort of look at as to why that we might be experiencing these sort of feelings, these emotions, and becoming more aware that that's what we do. That's my pattern. I avoid this. So you have episodes you might find of being completely overwhelmed and inundated with emotions. Do you find that's the case with you? That it might be someone else that's going through this, or it might be yourself, and you are completely overwhelmed. In fact, it's like it just hits you all at once, and you don't know what to do with it. Something else that I've noticed as well, and you might be aware of this, you feel sadness. And you don't know why, because you felt okay within yourself. But then it just this wave of sadness. Now it might mean that we sort of have to and that's something that we're going to talk about, we just sort of like, sometimes we don't know where it's come from. But this is one of the things that people that sort of have this gift, they quite often feel that sadness, and they don't know why. And of course, very much like we talked before, you find yourself releasing regularly through tears. You might feel that sadness, and then you get a lump in your throat, and you're feeling that way. Chances are, if you mainly intuit through what we're talking about here as psychic feelings, you're going to relate to this. And the isolation that sometimes that can occur because of this sort of kind of sensitivity. So, I will be talking about this in a podcast. We're going to look at spiritual awakening, but there is a blog that I've already sort of put in written form, and you might want to sort of have a look at that as spiritual awakening. And that's on the website of learnreikiandconnect.co.uk, because this really sort of looks at the side effects of finding ourselves blocked, stuck, overwhelmed in life and on a path, which again is symptomatic with mental health issues and how this can show up. But what that article, and we'll put it in a podcast, because it's really important, because we're going to then look at what is the energetic root of that sensitivity and how that plays a part in a much bigger picture. But one thing, in order to embrace this aspect of yourself, this gift of psychic feeling, you will need to acknowledge that this is your gift, because this is quite important. That happened to me. Because I was pretty much out of context, everything flooding in, and I didn't have an idea of what this was. I never even knew it was a label. And that moment, and this might happen with you, or it has already happened and you just been directed, stumbled across this, and it's just going to help you a little bit more, is that's the way that we intuit, and that's a gift. Because the minute that happens, that will create a shift in you. And then how you react to psychic feelings coming through. And this is the key, because you're going to be able then to decipher what is yours and keep your energy intact with boundaries so that you can function physically and energetically. So if this resonates with you and you intuitively feel and sense that you are led, for the most part, by these psychic feelings, then you might be ready to tap into the most powerful aspect of who you really are. And as I mentioned, earlier, that this sensitivity has both polarities, of being negative. And this is only termed negative because it's unrecognized or it's misinterpreted without the spiritual context in the physical life, like a weak, oversensitive, and that kind of thing. So this positive aspect comes when we embrace ourselves. And you know what? This is one of the most liberating shifts in awareness. And that's because of you now understanding your truth in how you intuit the truth around you. I mean, did you get what I just said there? And I'm going to say it again. This is your liberating shift of awareness, because this is an understanding of your truth and your gift of clairsentience in how you intuit the truth around you. Because you're picking up the truth around you. But at the moment, there's no filter. It's just bombarding and coming in, and we're just like, whoa. But this is really important. And this is so important. And it's my aim to help those that are kind of on the edge of either figuring this out, or you've come to a point in life and you're ready to address this from a deeper perspective. And that's from the energetic origin, the root of who we really are. So this is next little bit kind of going to break down 5 key areas of a process that's going to guide you to embrace this part of you. Now, read it, you can go on the website. This is all in written form. You might want to go and read that, or you might want to re-listen to this again. But you might want to, when you do this, find a quiet place. Just center yourself. Taking a few deep breaths, simply closing our eyes can put us into that frequency of alpha. And you can just allow this information to flow as you tune in. Now, you might want to just to sit with how this information comes through, or you might, like what I do, is I have a pen and paper right beside me. So I sometimes add some more sort of awareness and cognizance to my feelings by simply writing these things out that come to you. So you choose what's best for you, but I'm going to outline just 5 areas that's going to really kind of help to get the ball in motion. Now, that first thing is acknowledgement that you are clairsentient. Now, listening to this, or if you've read the article, you're going to know, you're going to feel if that's you. you are going to sense that this is how you intuit. So just allow your conscious mind to accept that. That your sensitivity is not a weakness. It might be coming through that is overwhelming you and you're feeling, as it can look like we're depressed, we're low because everything's just coming in. We don't know what's ours and what's not, but at the moment it's all overwhelming. It's not a weakness. And that shift that you're okay is so powerful. I remember that when that happened to me. I just suddenly realised, I thought, wow. And when you step into it consciously, that's when the magic happens. Because now I know that's me. It was me right from a child. I felt all of this. I felt it. My parents knew there was something that was not quite right. So this is going to be showing up in your life. This is already how you intuit and perceive life around you. Or it might be that there's been an experience and things have just sort of escalated and you just know, whoa, I can feel things about people. So just embrace that. Then 2, the next step is to recognize how you react to the feelings. Now, this is really important. And this is going to help you just to sort of work a couple of things out. This is where we're going to use our feeling, but we're also going to put it all into context. And try and work out, because this is really good. Are you overwhelmed? Are you scared? Are you unsettled? Are you fearful? Are you drained? Are you anxious? Or are you feeling confused? So the next time you feel something, ask yourself, what's this feeling? Am I feeling overwhelmed right now? Or do I feel scared or just feel unsettled? Because half the time we don't know what it is because it's happening and there's a lot that's going on with psychic feeling. What we're doing now is we're just looking, okay, I'm overwhelmed. Or, I feel fear. Or, I'm anxious. Then once you've identified that feeling, then think about when and where those feelings are at their worst. So in other words, is it happening when you're in public? Is it happening when you're around a certain person or a situation? So let's just go over that again. Let's just become a little bit more aware of how you react to those psychic feelings that are coming in. Because when they come in and they blast all at once. I think that's a given sort of, probably you might be nodding right now. Yes, it's all coming in. But this is where we get to sort of like hone in a little bit. I'm actually overwhelmed at the moment. And I'm actually in a shopping mall right now, for example. I'm just using this example. Or you might be feeling unsettled and you're in your home. You might be sitting in a room. So do you get the picture? We start now looking more of how you are reacting to the feelings and what those feelings are. And then where are you when they're happening? Now, to add to this is the 3rd step. Next, tune in to what is yours. Now, what do I mean by that? So in other words, you might need to sort of just look at what's going on in your own life. Because remember, psychically, we're feeling everything. And some of it can be ours. So you might have to sort of look, well, what's going on with me? Is there trauma at the moment? Is there hurt? Is there loss? Is there anything that's impacting you that is adding to discomfort in your life? Now that's key, because of course if we're going through loss, of course if something's going on, then we're going to feel that way. That's different. This is how then you can focus on the help you need for your own self-care. That's actually now separate, because that's going on. You're now being able to understand, well, I'm just feeling that because that's going on with me. You might be feeling that, just overwhelmed and sensitive to it all. And sometimes someone else's trauma or hurt, whatever's going, triggers our own. So we just need to focus in and ask yourself, is it yours? Then look at what's going on. And the reason why this is so beneficial, we're including this in the step 3, because this is something to do what's called filtering out what is going on. And this is an integral part of the process to separate what is yours and having that part then of letting go of what is other people's stuff. That's not yours, but you know what? It's affecting you because you can feel it. So this is really important. Filtering out, what's going on. Is it yours? And if it isn't yours, now it doesn't mean to say if it's a close friend, family members that makes you horrible because you're shutting it out. That's not what we're talking about. And we're going to talk about this in next step 5 of boundaries. For now, we have to separate it. Otherwise, we stay in a state of just overwhelm. It all looks the same. When we're sort of on the end of everything going, it just all looks the same. One big enmeshment of overwhelm. What we're learning to do now is becoming more aware of that gift. Looking at it from the inside. So we're going to separate it. We're going to filter out. Is it mine? And if it is mine, we'll deal with that. If it's not mine, then we're going to let that go. For me, I let it go with love and send divine love and white light to that. As I said, this is not about cutting somebody off. We're not doing that. You have to find a way that you can sort of work through this so that you don't become completely overwhelmed, because it is affecting you. So step 4 is keep your own energy intact. Boy, this is key. This is so key. This is part of that, filtering out what's yours and what's somebody else's. Because this is the thing. We pick up half the time with a lot of stuff what's going on. It's all coming at us. So in this step, what I would recommend, and I do this often, I'm still doing it, is the first thing to do is describe how your energy feels. So you might describe, like right now, how does your energy feel? Is it heavy? Is it porous? Is it low? So let's just talk about that. Heavy energy, that's different to porous and it's different to low. This is where you're going to start feeling the difference. Heavy energy is normally when we are carrying a lot of what is others, and maybe we haven't decharged and released and let go of what has been causing overwhelm. You're going to feel heavy. Everything is stacked on your shoulders. You're going to feel that either in your stomach, your heart, your head, wherever that is on your body. That's going to be very subjective and intuitively how you do that. You're going to feel that heaviness. Are you feeling that? Porous. Porous is it's almost like this holes. It's almost like it's not quite, it's like things can get in. It's like there's holes in your aura. Things can slip in. You just feel a little bit not whole. You felt that before. That there's like a little something, a little bit of negative, whatever it is, that can just slip right in. Porous. It's not as whole. Low. Low feels completely different. You're going to feel the low energy. tired, whether that's emotionally, mentally, or physically. You're going to feel what that feels like. So can you see what we're doing? You're just going to be describing energy. And I would suggest, do that on a daily basis. Because it is on a daily basis. We don't switch this gift off. It is ours. But what we're doing is that we're sort of now looking at it from a different perspective. We're starting to sort of dot the I's and cross the T's a little bit. We're looking at the overwhelm and we're kind of separating it, looking at it as a whole through a different lens. Now, so for example, you might feel scattered, as if you feel you're not in one place. Have you felt that? I have felt that. It's quite interesting. Now, when I feel scattered, and incidentally, we can feel heavy one day, porous, low, scattered. This is something that if you are clairsentient, you're going to be kind of working with this on a daily basis. It's just that before, perhaps, you're not quite realised where you've been and where you're at. So scattered, for me, I'm all over the place. Sometimes in my mind eye, when it's sunny and you can see all this sort of like dust and particles, sometimes in my mind's eye, I can feel that within myself. I almost feel in my mind's eye there's dust all around me. But I've also felt with others, I have felt the dust all around them. Does that make sense to you? Have you ever had that kind of sensation? That's an energy that is scattered. It's almost like you don't feel one place. You feel a little bit out of focus. It's everywhere. So what do? This is one thing that might help you, and that's through intention. Bring your focus and your energy back in so that you're contained. And like I said, use your intention and state what you want. So state what you want. What do you want? Do you want your energy to feel light? For example, if you're feeling heavy, if you're feeling porous, that you want it complete. So if you're feeling scattered, you want it all brought back in, that you're contained. Do you get the idea? Remember, this is looking at it through a different lens. We are looking at this through an energetic. But I can guarantee you're going to feel this. You already feel this because you're dealing with this. Might be that you're already putting some of these things in place and you actually cognitively already know that you're doing this. Or it might mean that this is a next step for you so that you can start now managing this so that we're not on the opposite polarity of being overwhelmed all the time. So the final step, which step 5, and you probably realised what's coming, boundaries. Boundaries need to be in place. And what that looks like for you and I and for us all that are led and we are empowered through clairsentience because we feel psychically, bring your energy into you and then you have a way that you seal it around you, because this is going to strengthen your ability to intuit your own state of being separately from anything else that's going on around you. So I'm going to say this again. What this boundaries do and what it does for us, it helps you to strengthen your ability to intuit your own state of being separately from what's going on around you. And there is a couple of ways that you can do this. For example, using energetic protective layers around you. And I really want to stress that this is to the highest good of yourself and to others. We're not doing this because everything is negative around us. No, I don't buy into that. And that's not nice. We're doing this to keep ourself intact to the highest good of yourself and to those around you. And this is not going to dilute you. or numb your intuition down. All we're doing is simply drawing a line between you and what you're picking up. Now, to do this, you can visualize a protective layer around you, from the light, from the source. And set that intention that is coming from the highest possible place so that you can keep your energy in place, intact. I'd encourage you to do this on a daily basis. Just go back over these 5 key things. I do this myself. I don't ever sort of recommend people to do certain things because I'm living it. I'm doing it. And I kind of sort of look at what works and just try and share that with others. So I would encourage you to do this. Go over those 5 keys. Those keys of, you would already by now, if not before already, or by a sense of feeling that you are clairsentient. You will intuit this. And just accept this part. Walk into your power. It's not a weakness. And then recognizing how you react to those psychic feelings that are coming in. What is it making you feel? What are they? Well, separate them. Scared, unsettled, because we're feeling them. And sometimes we get them all at once and we can't sort of differentiate between them all because they all look like one big blur. But start doing that, because what that will do is then you'll be able to understand this is what's coming through. You'll separate them. You'll start feeling the difference. Feeling scared, to unsettled, to drain. They've all got a different energy. You already feel that. Then where and when do you feel that? Then you become a little bit more cognizant, because remember we talked about, we've got all the other stuff. We're all wired differently. We all have cognizance. We all know, we feel, we hear, we see. Maybe not as strong, as others. And I always sort of realise we do it in different ways. You might find that you feel and you know. You might be one of those that you feel and you see. Or you might see and then you feel, do you get the picture? We've got all of these. But I've just realised over the years and for myself and my own life that there are those that are empowered to feel. But we're just not picking it up as a gift. In fact, if anything, it looks out of context. And that's even when we're on our spiritual journey and when we start waking up and we become aware of ourselves. It's just that we haven't tapped into it. And when we tap into it, then we walk our power. I love my clairsentience. I love it. I use it in my work. I use the techniques to the highest good of myself and others. I use it with my family, with my daughters. I feel when their energy's out, and depending on who and where you're with your family. And, I talk about this so that they understand that part of themselves. So that we can sort of work through when we are feeling overwhelmed. And that we can then identify, okay, I feel a lot of this stuff. I'm very sensitive around this. So we can own it. And of course, the next step is filter out what's yours and what isn't yours. This is part of the process. This is going to help you. This is going to help you separate what's yours and let go of what's not yours. And you find your way, especially with family members, because you don't want to disconnect. We're not disconnecting. If anything, by putting boundaries in place, and I teach this on the online Reiki courses, I also teach it on my in-person, this actually helps us to progress and really become the better version of ourselves. Because once we've got this energetic boundaries and things in place, we actually can deal with other people's emotions a lot better. We don't become overwhelmed as much because we can see through this. We've separated. So what it's done for me and what it has done for so many others, it keeps themselves intact so that you can actually put the attention and holding the space for a loved one, a family member, or children when they're just simply overwhelmed. We don't have to become overwhelmed with them and then like, ooh, because we can't deal with it. In fact, if anything, when we brace this, I can keep myself intact and I can hear that person out. And just to the better version of me. Because that's what this is all about. We're not then on the point where it's all overwhelming and we don't know what to do. And then we get really sort of like, in a spin and overwhelmed. And unfortunately, what we do is we go and we numb ourselves down. So I would encourage you to do the exercise until you're able to trust your intuition. Sense what is yours and let go of what isn't yours, because that's important too. You can't carry the world and everybody else on your shoulder. We can't. It's I speak because I have children myself, and we have family, we have friends. If you could, you would take it on, but that's not healthy. And this is where, by simply putting that boundary in place, I've been able to hold that space a lot more better for children and for family members. Have a go. Just have a go and see where this is. Because you know what? This is the start of a process that will guide you to your higher self. Remember, we said we might know it as whatever label we put to it, but that's the part of you that is guiding you in your present life. That higher self is embracing that part of you, which is that clear psychic feeling naturally. And it's going to help you navigate the world around you and the sensitivity so that you can then tap in to your inner power. So I hope that's helped you. I hope you found this useful. Let me know whether you're reading it on the blog space, put a message there, or whether you're listening to us on a podcast. It's my intention that's what we're here to do, is to help each other out. So if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening on other platforms, then please listen out, because we are going to be talking about more of the physical stuff of, when we get here and we're trying to work it out, because that's what it is. But the best way we can do that is tapping into the light. Is tapping into that part of you that's going to help you. So if you'd like to know a little bit more information or go and find out a bit more, then please go and have a look at the website at learnreikiandconnect.co.uk. And until the next time, do take care of yourself, and bye for now.